Hello, everybody. Good morning. It's July 4th, 2025. Just to get warmed up and get moving here, I'll tell you, I'm using this Prism app, live streaming. It's how I have done my multi-streaming since I started streaming and YouTubing years ago. It's a wonderful app that allows you to circumvent the weird limits that YouTube puts on you to be able to stream. So I only have 11 subscribers to my channel as opposed to the 50 needed to be able to live stream. So I'm hoping that after I'm done doing this, that it will successfully upload to YouTube just like it used to all those years ago. So some cool pro tips for you. If you're trying to start a YouTube channel, you can live stream today. Download the Prism app. Cool stuff. Now, I don't even know where to begin because that's truthfully the only reason I'm recording this video. But when in Jerusalem, right? The thing about doing streams like this is all manner of people come across it and watch. And boy, this brought me a lot of trouble last time I was doing YouTube and streaming to Facebook because, oh gosh, the comments, right? You just want to help everybody. So, let's kick it off talking about some health stuff and medicine, because I assert very wholeheartedly that, look, you shall know them by their fruits. And let's start simply, okay? If you have a friend that's super duper loyal to you, but they steal from other people behind their back and they lie and manipulate, you can bet your sweet hiney they do the same thing to you when you're not around, right? If you hook up with somebody that's in a committed relationship and they cheat with you, and then you form a relationship with them, you can bet your sweet hiney they're going to do the same thing to you. You shall know them by their fruits. Okay, so people do the same thing here that they do over there. All right. Now, a lot of people try to live a facetious life, right? Facetious meaning multifaceted. Facetious is an elegant way to call someone two-faced, right? If people are facetious, they are facetious. There you go. You shall know them by their fruits. But I want to expand and compound upon that concept for you because it will improve your life so much to gain more understanding. So follow him with me, okay? People who are really good. Look, I'm going to gloat a little bit here, and I'm kind of throwing a buddy of mine under the bus here that is not a Christian and will probably get mad at me for sharing this personal story. But I'm here to do something, and I'm going to do it. I've got a buddy who traveled the world a couple times over. He went through Asia, and he went through South America, Guatemala, and I believe it was in Guatemala that he came back to the States. And, full disclosure, this is a buddy of mine that I went to middle school with, and I've moved around a lot my whole life. So he's one of the few people that I still maintain contact with. And the reason for that is because, well, when I was going through my spiritual awakening, we bonded a lot over that, psychedelic drugs, deep, I was reading the raw material, and I was just talking to him all the time about these things in preparation for, what I planned to do, which was, let's go back to like 2018, 2019. I started watching a lot of Aaron Doughty and Aaron Abke. And I used to comment on their videos trying to get their attention, dropping bomb knowledge and saying, listen, you're going to remember me, remember these comments, remember my face, remember my name. I am Aaron Denby. You are Aaron Dowdy. You are Aaron Abke. And they would comment. I remember Aaron Dowdy commenting back, yeah, we're like the three Aarons. And I was like, yes, locked in. And so I was just pouring myself into my studies because at the time I was a stay-at-home dad in Colorado. And I was just, I had Buddha statues all around my house. And I was just meditating constantly. And I was giving my life to God. And in the only ways that I knew how. For the sake of my children and to overcome generational curses and demons and whatever. I don't know what all I believed in at that point, but I definitely knew that there was more than meets the eye in this world. When my dad died when I was 20, he said, oh my gosh, can y'all see them? They're all right there waiting for me. And 30 minutes later, he was dead. And my dad was a Christian. He went to Houston Baptist University. And every time I tried to ask him about why he was a Christian, he'd say, son, there's just some things you can't explain. If it's the truth, as I believe it is, then God's going to show you himself, just like he did me. And I don't know if I knew it then or not. But boy, was he right. Go ahead and keep living. Go ahead and keep living vainly. It's going to hurt so much more when he wakes you up. It took the loss of innocent life for me to finally accept that he was real. He told me that an innocent person was going to die, and I thought I was just losing my mind. Maybe I am. Maybe I was. You tell me. So, throughout those times in my life, I remained in contact with this friend of mine. But upon returning to the States, he had a lot of issues, health issues. He was telling me some pretty graphic details about what was happening to him because he understood that you shall know them by their fruits. He understood that my depth of knowledge about the things that he was interested in meant that I was a force to be reckoned with. I surrender that to God. I gotta say, it's the Holy Spirit. It's been him the whole time. It's gotta be. I don't want to blaspheme the Holy Spirit. So take that with a grain of salt, but that's what I believe. And so it's never been me, but that's how other people see it. People see arrogance, right? Jesus got crucified because people thought he was arrogant. He was saying he was the Son of Man, the Son of God. Understand there had been lots of sons of God. So many men in the Bible have been referred to as the Son of God. For Jesus to say he was the Son of God was nothing, but to call himself the Son of Man, who is the incarnate God, that was arrogant, right? So, what I'm trying to paint for you here is that this buddy of mine knew that because I had such deep spiritual knowledge and I was so interested in medicine, he heard me talking about, some health things, and he's like, okay. He was going to the doctor, and he was like, Aaron, my doctor keeps telling me that nothing's wrong with me, that he can't figure out what it is. And I told him, nah, man, there's something in your liver. There's something going on in your liver. And I was just studying on the internet, just like we all do, trying to self-diagnose on the internet. And I don't know. I've done this type of thing many times. And if you just use your brain a little bit, you really can figure things out. It's really not that hard. Maybe that's just a me thing. I don't know, guys. But I told him, look, you got something going on in your liver. Go back to those doctors and tell them to test your liver. And he listened to me, and he did it. And lo and behold, after months of bloody stools and feeling like he was going to die, he had Giardia infection in his liver. How did I figure that out sitting on the internet? Now that I'm a Christian, I've got to argue that perhaps the Holy Spirit had something to do with that. I don't know. You tell me. Now, the important thing that I want to reveal now is that a few months after that, a year after that, I became a Christian. I became a Christian in May of 2020. Now, in January of 2020, I was one of those Q guys. Because, again, full disclosure, growing up, I was an extreme occultist. And since I was a young man, I have understood, this idea about the Zionist occupational government, and that's supposed to be a myth, right? Okay, then what were the Maxwells and Epstein up to? I mean, that is literally the Zog. It turns out it's a true conspiracy. And so I was like, yo, all this Q stuff is legit. This is the foundation. This is like why. There's so much stuff about history that you guys just don't know. And I'm going to reel that back in because these are inflammatory topics. I just want you to understand that people who can find the truth here are people who can find the truth there. So just as sure as I was able to discover that my buddy had Giardia in his liver, I was able to understand that there's a Zionist occupational government out there, okay? Now, my buddy, upon me becoming a Christian, after watching me for 6 months talk about, or 4 to 5 months talk about all this Q, I mean, I was blasting everybody, just like we were told to do, just constantly sending people inflammatory stuff to wake them up. And then I became a Christian, right in the middle of the throes of that. I ordered a Bible on Good Friday. And then I went in my room and started reading the book of Revelation. I don't want to talk too much about myself in this video. There are some powerful things that happened that night that just, you know what, I will tell you. I know I'm being tangential here, but hey, follow him with me. Whenever I was 19 years old in December of 2012, I had a dream of this guy floating in space like Galactus, but smaller. And he was wearing a white robe, except it was shining with light, and it was shining so brightly that I had to squint my eyes, and my eyelashes covered. It made his cloak look like a dirty orange coffee cream yellowed color. But I recognized looking that it was surely purely white. I just couldn't open my eyes enough to see how pure white it was. And that bright, blinding light made me instinctively start backing away. But as I focused more, I saw a sword coming out of this dude's mouth. Okay? And his feet were on fire. His eyes were on fire. And as I was waking up from that dream, I saw candlesticks. I woke up and I went to my dad, who I've told you was a Christian. I said, Dad, I had this really weird dream last night, and I feel like I need to share it with you, because we did a lot of this type of stuff, talking about psychology and history and all the weird topics, right? And so I spent a lot of time doing dream interpretation and talking about Carl Jung and stuff like that with my dad, right? So I just wanted his 2 cents, and I just felt like I needed to share it with him. And the reason for that is because this person in my dream reminded me of him. Rather, that feeling when you're scared of your dad, he can throw you across the house, and you guys are fighting, but he comes up to you and hugs you, and just that firm, loving hug that you can only receive from your dad. This weird guy in my dream was trying to give me a hug, and I was like, get away from me, creep. But that pure, bright, white light let me know that I was being rebellious and running from him because I'd done something wrong. the same way I would if my dad was trying to give me a hug and I had a guilty conscience, right? So I told my dad about this dream, and he said, son, you dreamed the first scene from the book of Revelation. And I was like, sure. See, my name's supposed to be Preston, but right before I was born, my dad was like, you know what? His name's Aaron. And my grandmother, who's been a minister my whole life, has always told me, that was God. You're going to be a priest. And I've always been like, whatever, Grandma. Maybe, but I'm not going to be a Christian priest because it ain't the truth. Boy, oh boy. Good Friday of 2020, I went into my bedroom while my partner was in the kids' bedroom with them because she didn't like the fact that I was into this Q stuff, and definitely didn't like the fact that that meant I was reading the Bible now because she went to Catholic school. You know what I'm saying? And she just viewed all of this as me losing my freaking marbles. That's neither here nor there. She's a wonderful, amazing woman, and I have nothing bad to say about her. But that night I went and read my dream. Now, I had forgotten all about it because I thought my dad was stupid too. I mean, I knew my dad was a genius, but I thought he was stupid to believe in Jesus, and even stupider to try and tell me that isn't that weird? Why didn't I believe him? I should have opened the Bible and said, no way, show me. But I was like, whatever. And then 8 years later, I want you to imagine that the first time in your life you open a Bible and read it with the intention of finding the truth, the very first words that you read are a dream that you had when you were 19 years old. Do you understand what I'm telling you? The vision that John had is identical to a dream that I had. That's scary and will make anyone think that they are batshit insane. That's why I'm constantly talking about neuroplasticity, because it is the only way that I'm still here talking to you. Okay? I should have flown away with the birds and the fishes and the bats a long time ago, dude. I mean, cuckoo, right? So, I had to keep that private. But I immediately went from blasting all this Q stuff to then trying to evangelize. But I expected my friends that really knew about my spiritual journey to be taken aback by that and to say, oh my gosh, I respect this man so much for the work that he's done for spirituality, all the truth that he shared with me. I gotta know what he's learning. And every single person has just thought that I somehow lost all my IQ points. And it's just so strange. But I have had a supernatural sense of patience and forgiveness about that since the beginning, because I remember how I thought my dad was dumb. It's very humbling. Now, I say all of this to say that again, you shall know them by their fruits. And people who can recognize the truth here are people who can recognize the truth there. If someone who has given you massive advice that has changed your life becomes a Christian, that should be a green flag for you. Okay, but instead you say, "Ooh, they're Christian now. That's a red flag." Really? Why is Israel still the center of the world? I mean, ever since Abraham bound up Isaac, it's been the center of the world. I mean, 2,000 years later, you're still watching a stream talking about Jesus. If he's not real, why do you care? Why do you feel so compelled to spend time on these things? Because you know that it is the entire point of your life on this earth. Don't let Satan deceive you. Don't let your flesh deceive you. Don't let your immature mind deceive you. Don't be like a fourth grader that tells their older sibling that algebra is not math and they're stupid because it has letters in it. You're the one that doesn't understand things yet. Be patient. Okay? Jesus has all these parables where he likens things unto the, he likens the kingdom of heaven unto this and that. Well, let me share one with you from my thinking, okay? The work being done on earth right now with us is like unto a father cooking dinner for his children. And the little kids say, Daddy, I'm hungry, and keep opening the fridge. And he's like, stop, I'm cooking. Please go back and do your homework, and I will call you when dinner is ready. A good child will say, okay, Daddy, I'm sorry. I trust you. I hope dinner's good. You need any help? A brat will act differently. Are you going to be a brat? Yo, really? I mean, I am. I'm a brat every day. Don't you just see me here trying to share all this stuff that I found with you. You don't see me crying and blaming God every day for how bad I think my life sucks, instead of thanking him for all the beautiful blessings I have. I mean, I'm a deadbeat dad, despite all of my efforts to rise above that. Despite all of my efforts, I just keep running into people that don't want me to work for them. They don't want somebody that never has a bad day. It just brings them down when they get home with their wives and children. They feel, I don't know what's going on. But the more that I start to shine, the more I find myself sitting at home doing things like this. Because, man, I mean, I go to job interviews, and when the people lay eyes on me, they turn around and walk away. I'm serious. It's so spooky. And again, maybe I'm insane, so who knows? Don't believe anything I say. Go get yourself one of these and one of these. But look, now that we've laid all that out, I want to demonstrate and illustrate for you, okay? Vitamin C, ascorbic acid. Vitamin C is a potent antioxidant, and it's pretty much the only one you need. You go and you spend money on your acai bowls and these $50 bottles of tablets that have super antioxidants in it, and all these superfoods loaded with antioxidants. That's just vitamin C, guys. And do you know why you need vitamin C? Antioxidant. You may know why you need antioxidants, right? Antioxidants prevent against oxidative stress from free radicals, which, if you're breathing in benzene from car exhaust, you're going to have free radicals in your body, right? It's a byproduct of any metabolic process, right? There's going to be free radicals. Not just metabolic processes, there's free radicals all the time. Now, the point is, antioxidants will keep things from oxidizing. You see these gray hairs right here? These gray hairs are formed by hydrogen peroxide being produced in my hair follicles. And hydrogen peroxide is an oxidant. One hydrogen, 5 oxygens, it oxidizes things, right? OxyClean is another, it's like hydrogen peroxide. It's got way more oxygen molecules, though it's a superoxidant, right? Okay, antioxidants will stop hydrogen peroxide from being able to bleach your hair white. So the fact that I have gray hair means I need more antioxidants in my diet. Antioxidants keep you from aging. They keep your DNA from degrading. They do so many wonderful things in your body. Now, you know what antioxidants are. You might know what I just said, but you haven't put 2 and 2 together, perhaps, that's vitamin C. And the recommended daily intake for vitamin C is 60 milligrams for a smoker. I think it's like 25 for a non-smoker. That's ridiculous. Vitamin C is water soluble. You can take massive amounts of it and it won't harm you in any way other than getting a stomach ache. But if you take calcium ascorbate, right, esterified, a vitamin C molecule attached to a piece of calcium, the calcium gets cleaved off once it enters your bloodstream, therefore not upsetting your stomach. You urinate out all the excess that you don't use, and you get all the benefits of that vitamin C. Now, goats produce about 5 grams. I'm making up numbers here, but it is a drastic amount. They produce about 5 grams of vitamin C or so in their livers every day. Now, I want you to understand this. This is what I'm trying to say. I really want you to hear these statements. Vitamin C keeps you from aging. It keeps you from getting sick. Okay? Humans, guinea pigs, and chimpanzees all share a defect in their liver. The enzyme is turned off that something is switched off in your liver that prevents you from being able to synthesize vitamin C. Did you hear what I just said? Guinea pigs, chimpanzees, and humans. If that's not an artifact of some sort of genetic experiment that has a sense of humor, then, dude, come on. I don't know if you've read the Apocryphon of John or the Hypostasis of the Archons. I'm aware that I'm ranting here. I'm sorry. Try to follow him with me. We are staying on track. I'm climbing a tree, and I can talk about all these branches. And I'm really sorry that you might feel stuck on a branch that I brought you to. That's why I keep inviting you to follow him with me, because we've got to talk about all these branches. You got to follow, or you might as well click out now, or come back and try 10 times. Whatever you got to do. All right. I love you. I'm sorry. I actually forgot what I was going to say, so we'll just keep going. Vitamin C was discovered 249 years after a man from Europe came to the Americas. And, we were getting scurvy on the ships because the only thing that we had to eat on ships was bread and beef jerky and beer. Those don't contain any vitamin C, right? I mean, unless you got like liver jerky. So people on ships on long voyages would develop scurvy. And when they show up in the New World, the natives would say, here, drink this pine needle tea. They would drink the pine needle tea and their scurvy would go away. But when these reports were brought back to Spain or wherever it was, they said, huh? That's some witch doctor nonsense, bro. We're not listening to you. But then 249 years later, vitamin C, ascorbic acid, was finally synthesized or isolated or whatever. It was discovered, and it was called ascorbic acid. Ascorbic means scurvy, right? It's called ascorbic acid. That name means that it prevents scurvy. Really cool stuff. I find it absolutely fascinating. But what you need to take from this is that it took 250 years for people to accept the simple truth that was right in front of their face. We haven't changed a bit. Now, you might think that people change, but people don't change, bro. A river changes. If you go to a river in the summer of 2025, it's going to look different than it did in the summer of 2018, isn't it? That river has changed shape, it's changed depth, it's carved out new avenues to go through, but the river by and large still looks exactly the same. And all of us are just drops of water in this river. You think you're an individual? Sure. Right. Yeah, you're one of 8 billion though. None of us are special. I'm not special. Jesus wasn't special. That's the whole point of his ministry on earth. He told us point blank that we will all receive the same baptism as him. He must be talking about the Spirit that looks like a dove that descended upon him and said, "This is my Son in whom I am well pleased." But how can we receive that baptism until we become one of his sons or daughters in whom he is well pleased? You're not even trying, because you're saved by grace. Even Paul told you that you need to have works meet for repentance. So remember where Peter told us that people wrest Paul's writings unto their own destruction. Please. Vitamin C is something that you should be taking in large amounts every day in its esterified form. Let's move on. What other cool things can we talk about that'll blow your mind and make you realize that you should listen to me about the Bible at least a little bit? What do you want to know about? Hey, let me gloat a little more. How's that? Back in 2020, I was walking around in Lakewood, Colorado, doing all these streams because I was a new Christian on fire. And I was talking in these videos and I would say, I remember walking down the street with my phone out and I said, right by Bonfils Stanton Park in Lakewood, Colorado, I said, y'all, you think there's no such thing as room temperature superconductors? I guarantee you there are room temperature solid state superconductors right now that are military technology and we're just not being told about it. And sometime in the next 10 to 20 years, you're going to be told about these newly discovered solid state room temperature superconductors. Guess what happened? Okay, now, if anybody watching the stream personally knows me, I'm begging you. Do you remember me in high school? Do you remember the things that I've always talked about? Let me remind everyone, I was telling everybody back in 2011 and 2012 that Marco Rodin had to be correct because vortex mathematics reveals a prism, if you will, through which geometric data of any particle can be transferred, assuming they're entangled. So then I think it was, no, I'm getting my time frame mixed up here because I think it was 2011 that we finally did that. Maybe 2010. I'm just saying, I've literally been theorizing breakthroughs that didn't happen, and people just ignore it. It's so weird, but I get it. This is how life has been for everybody, right? Like, I mean, just look at Tesla. I'm not trying to compare myself to Tesla in any way, shape, or form. But again, we're all just as insignificant as we want to pretend the next guy is. Okay, trust me. Nikola Tesla is no more significant than the homeless guy you just chose not to give breakfast to. That dude might have been an angel. You think you're better than him. So I'm done gloating now. I'm really not trying to be like, ooh, me. I just, hopefully I don't have a chip on my shoulder about it anymore. It's just, I spend so much time talking about the Bible. And people are just like, whatever, this guy's an idiot. And it's like, y'all, I was diagnosed with autism in 2020 by Dr. Tally Hitt of Brain Body Works in Denver, Colorado. I have an analytical IQ of 167. I do have autism though, so my mean IQ score is 138 because my working memory is 110. But an important thing to understand about this is 138 is the top of the Wechsler scale. So Dr. Hitt gave me a secondary IQ test because she couldn't determine what my actual IQ was. So she had to, in addition to the Wechsler scale, give me some other kind of secondary IQ test that gives me some sort of higher granular analytical scoring. Now, for those of you who don't know, I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, I'm an idiot and a genius, and it sucks. It's just a fact. You know what I mean? I'm not smarter than you. Okay, I'm not. I pay more attention to detail, and that means sometimes I miss what is right in front of my face. That's why it's so important that I make all these videos and do it out in the open with my brothers and sisters so that I am not led astray. But there's a reason I was made this way, and there's a reason you were made the way you're made. I accept myself for who I am, and I accept you for who you are. Because that's what God does. That's what Jesus does. And at this point, this might be like, oh my God, this guy is an idiot. Sorry, Lord. But you just don't know, do you? When you read Ezekiel, and it talks about a wheel within a wheel, when I read that, immediately I was like, yo, a wheel within a wheel, that's an atom. Because within the next few verses, listen, Ezekiel has this vision of this hot metal wheel within these two things spinning around, and there's a guy who's given power to reach under this thing because there's coals there, like a barbecue pit, and he takes these coals into his hand and casts them upon the earth, causing destruction. Tell me, okay, let me rephrase this. Is it possible that that is a vision providing an anthropomorphic ancient description of nuclear physics? Was that an ancient prediction of coming nuclear warfare? Is it possible? I mean, Neil Bohr says that the structure of the atom came to him in a vision from the spirit realm. August Kekulé, the guy who discovered the pi resonance of benzene, which, well, I hope somebody who watches this video knows what that means. The pi resonance of benzene is one of the coolest things that we've ever discovered. It might be how consciousness exists in the first place. If you just go listen to Orchestrative Objective Reductive Theory of Consciousness by, Stuart Hameroff and Roger Penrose. Are you seeing a pattern here? Everybody thinks Penrose is an idiot, but he's one of the smartest people on the planet whose equations have allowed us to discover things in the stars that we would have never known were there. He's one of the smartest people on the planet. We know that for a fact. But when he tries to tell you the things that he's discovered about how consciousness has transpired, you want to call him an idiot. People called Nikola Tesla an idiot too. People called Jesus an idiot, I bet. I'm not trying to compare myself to these people. I'm trying to compare you to the doubters. I'm trying to tell you that you are the same person that would have condemned Tesla and fell for the smear campaign. I'm trying to tell you that you would have been a Nazi if you lived in Germany. I'm trying to tell you that these are the things that you are falling for right now. Last night I saw a video on Facebook. A woman purports to have discovered what the 7 stars mean, the 7 spirits of God. The Bible talks about the Lord sitting in a physical throne out in space above the sea of glass, which might be the top side of the firmament. Now, you already know. You've seen the videos of the bubbles and the mice, on the ISS. You know already there's this theory that space might be water and we might be being lied to. Now, that might be nonsense. I don't know. You tell me. But I'll tell you that that's what the Bible says. That that space is water. At least that's how I interpret it. You tell me. Go read it and you tell me. But make sure you're reading the KJV, because the other Bibles aren't Bibles. Okay? Did you hear the breadth of the things that I'm talking about here, the depth of the things that I'm talking about here, the length, the girth of the things we're talking about here? Imagine you tried to translate a math paper into another language. You better make sure you get it right. The Bible is all of the world's science in an anthropomorphic format. It is not spiritual allegory. It is scientific, mathematical, super granular, decimal point descriptions of the scientific things that we do not yet understand. I'm spitballing here, and if you're not a believer, you're going to have a hard time swallowing this one. But Jesus tells us that the only way to rid yourself of demons is through fasting and prayer. Would you consider cancer a demon? Are you familiar with Rhonda Patrick and the mammalian target of rapamycin and what we figured out about mTOR and autophagy? Are you aware that we discovered in 2000, 2016 that 17, I think it's 2018. No, it's 2017. We discovered that fasting, when you go into a fasted state, which means you're inside your pituitary gland, right? You have an inverse relationship in your body between insulin and growth hormone. You cannot have growth hormone and insulin being secreted by your brain at the same time. That's why people inject growth hormone, so they can keep eating while having growth hormone. Because when you eat, you don't have growth hormone. So we live in this fallacy where we think that old people don't produce growth hormone anymore. The truth is they've spent 60 years eating 3 meals a day and never fasting. Okay? Whenever your stomach starts growling and you feel hungry, that's a chemical called ghrelin hitting the receptors in your brain and telling you to eat. Ghrelin has another effect, which is it tells your pituitary gland to start pumping out growth hormone signals. So when you get hungry, if you don't eat, you'll get growth hormone. Now that's people who have a fast metabolism. People who have a fast metabolism are people who skip breakfast. You understand? You weren't born with different genetics or anything. It's just your choices and your lifestyle. You've seen it happen a bajillion times already. Somebody who's overweight changes the way that they eat, and all of a sudden their metabolism speeds up. Meanwhile, people who grew up with a fast metabolism turn into buckets of lard later on. And people often move between these states, proving that it must be transient in nature. I'm not sure if you're following me here. I hope you are. If you eat food, your body will put out insulin, which will trigger the stopping of that release of growth hormone, right? So growth hormone has a lot of wonderful effects, but another thing that happens there is this process of autophagy, self-eating. And when you start fasting, growth hormone is circulating around your body, and there's a complete absence of insulin. I don't know if it's a complete absence of insulin. I don't think you can function without insulin, but whenever you're in that state, the first thing that your body does is start consuming its dirty, nasty trash cells for food. And the cells that it picks to eat are cancer cells. Those are the first ones that go. So, fasting can get rid of cancer. I'm not going to say fasting can cure cancer. We can thank Jason Vale for teaching us about those quicksand pits. But seriously, guys, there's a simple demonstration / illustration for you how the Bible is anthropomorphized science. Okay? Jesus could have said words like autophagy and growth hormone back then. And though he didn't use those words, I would like to tell you that the word suburb is in the Old Testament. I want you to explain that to me. I want you to explain to me how a word that we didn't start using till a few hundred years ago was written in this book thousands of years ago. Now you might say, Aaron, don't be silly. It was written in Hebrew. Okay. Do you think that people in the 15 and 1600s who translated and transliterated and interpreted the stuff into English knew the word suburb? That word was put in here in 1611 or whatever. Now I remember what I was trying to share with you earlier that I forgot about. So here's our last branch, guys. If I tell you to hit the road, what am I telling you? You can interpret that. So there's a difference between translation, transliteration, and interpretation. We'll save that for a future video because there's a lot to unpack. What I'm trying to share with you is that when I say hit the road, you interpret those words in your mind as a completely different statement. Hit the road has lost its, the whole is more than the sum of its parts. You don't look at a bicycle and see a cardboard box filled with chains and tires and spokes and cast aluminum pipes and brake lines. You see a bicycle, right? So when I say hit the road, you don't think punch, road. You don't think about spoke, wheel. No, you just see the whole, which is a machine for moving forward. When I say hit the road, I'm telling you to proceed with haste. Go quickly. Get over there as fast as you can. Whatever. Okay. Now, Jesus told us in Matthew 13, his disciples asked, "Why do you speak to them in parables? Why dost thou speak to them in parables?" And he says, "I speak to them in parables because the secrets of the kingdom of heaven are for you to know, not them. For seeing they see not, hearing they hear not, neither do they understand." Jesus is telling us there that whenever he is in front of the multitudes or the Pharisees, if anyone other than his disciples are around, he will speak in a parable, because he's trying to say it in a way that only his disciples can understand. Because remember, at any point in time, any member of those multitudes can decide to become one of his disciples. And so you might hear these stories for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years. And all of a sudden it hits you what their true meanings are, because you give your heart and your life to him, and the Holy Spirit comes within you and tells you what their real meanings are. Okay. Look. If you were French and you didn't speak English natively and you didn't understand English figures of speech, but you still spoke fluent English and could write fluent English, and you were hired to okay, let's back up. No, let's keep going. When I say hit the road, I'm not telling you to hit the road. I'm telling you something else, okay? When Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is like unto a field of wheat, he's not talking about a field of wheat. It's pretty clear. So, perhaps it's appropriate if it's hard for someone to understand this parable, this figure of speech of hitting the road, then maybe it's appropriate for me to step it down for them in a simpler way and say what I actually mean and say, proceed with haste. But in no way would it be appropriate for me to lack that understanding, rewrite this sentence as punch the street, and then say that's its official meaning. Because if someone reads these instructions, they are never going to be able to determine that they're actually supposed to proceed with haste. They're going to think they're being instructed to break their fist on the asphalt. So when you make an NIV or an NLT or the NKJV or the Passion Translation, that's what you are doing. You are lying to people. And Frank Logsdon, the guy, I think he made, I don't know which Bible it was that he made, but look him up if you don't know about him. Okay? The KJV is the only Bible. And if you still are doubting that, I'll leave you with this. Spain and England are at war. 1588, I think. The Spanish Armada, the entirety of the Spanish fleet is coming to conquer England. I mean, it's a wash. It's a Zerg rush. There's no way England is going to win. Spain is about to conquer England, and that means they're going to conquer the world, because they're both fighting with each other like Russia and China and America to see who's going to be the world superpower. Okay. The Spanish Armada makes its way to the English Channel, and a giant storm comes out of nowhere and sinks every one of those ships to the bottom of the English Channel. By default, the next morning, England is a world superpower because God defeated Spain. They didn't have to lift a finger. The King James Bible is written, the 1611 whatever, and 7 years later, English is the official language of planet Earth. In 1618. My dates might be off, but there you have it, guys. People want to say, well, man, you're so dumb, you silly Christian. You really think that white people and English and Christianity is the one? You're so arrogant, right? No, you haven't been paying attention. White people didn't conquer the world. God is in control. God is in control. And if you want to deny that, I'm sorry. I got a book right here that tells me only a fool says in his heart there is no God. You might think I'm dumb, but hopefully this 51-minute video convinced you that I'm not. Neither was he. Neither are you, bro. Neither are you, sis. You can do this, baby. We're all here waiting for you. Every time someone gets saved, there's cheers and screams, and I mean, there are cheerleaders in heaven for you. They are waiting. Everybody thinks God loves us so much. Yes, he does. But you make that so self-centered. If God really loved me, then why wouldn't he make my life better? I'm hungry. Why isn't dinner ready? Are we there yet? It didn't end. Glory to the Father, guys. Follow me for more.